On today's special video, we're going to be figuring out which one of these Penelope special releases is worth it for the money. Welcome back to Capitol Bourbon, everyone. My name is Steven, and on today's extra special video, we have 3 Penelope's special releases here to review. The first bottle we got right here is Penelope Tokaji Cask Finish, which is a wine finish, and I really haven't been a fan of many wine finishes. However, I've had a few releases and a couple sips recently that have changed my mind a little bit here, so we'll find out if this one here is any good. Those ones have mainly been sherry and not really Tokaji. I've never had Tokaji before, so this will be a first time for me. This one here is aged 8 years actually, and it's coming in 106 proof and 53% alcohol by volume. Our next one here is the American Light Whiskey. This one is pretty hard to find, has been making some noise on the scene. Because it's aged 15 years, comes in 128.4 proof or 64.2% alcohol. I never had American Light Whiskey before, and this is pretty hard to find and sought after bottle. And you know what they say, that must mean it's good, right? We'll find out. But what really is American Light Whiskey? This is the first bottle I bought of American Light Whiskey and the first time I'll be trying it. It's usually distilled at 160 proof, which then results in a higher whiskey product. And the name light doesn't really come from it being, a lighter whiskey, a less proof whiskey. It comes from really the color here being a little bit lighter and also the flavor being a little less complex, mainly because it's aged in used barrels and uncharred barrels sometimes, compared to a lot of bourbons and whiskeys which are aged in new and charred barrels, which just results in a lighter color here and sometimes a little bit less flavor. And this is a very fast growing segment of the whiskey community and whiskey industry, so I'm excited to try this one out as well. You can see here the color is a little bit lighter than the rest of the ones here, just because again it is that American Light Whiskey in that used barrel. Our final bottle and most recent pickup is actually Penelope Rio here, which comes in at 98 proof and 49% alcohol. And it's actually finished in honey and Amburana casks here. Now, Amburana finishes can be quite polarizing. There's a lot of debate about it, really, if it's really whiskey or if it turns into something else, just because it has a really heavy cinnamon flavor and to me also vanilla flavor. And yeah, it just can be quite polarizing for a lot of people. However, you can see I already cracked this bottle open and I drank a good amount of it so far. And wow, I can really say that I really like this Penelope Rio. The Amburana finish there is not too strong. I think that honey finish as well kind of neutralizes a little bit and gives it a little bit more flavor, kind of more vanilla flavor. And I very much enjoy it. This one's very unique and not overfinished at all in my opinion. And actually my fiance, who doesn't really like whiskey, enjoys and likes this one too. And if you're trying to introduce your significant other or anyone else into the whiskey community here, I recommend letting them try an Amburana finish, as it's an easy sipper and it's an easy gateway into the whiskey hobby. And price-wise for these bottles, I got the Tokaji and the American Light Whiskey for at or around MSRP. Tokaji, I believe I got for $100, and the American Light Whiskey, I got this one for $110. So it's right at around MSRP. However, the Rio here, I did end up paying closer to secondary on that. You can look to find these for maybe around $165 to $190. I ended up paying around $170 for this bottle. However, I did try this one at a bar before, and wow, I immediately fell in love with it. Immediately that night, I went online, found this at a secondary marketplace, and I was willing to pay whatever for, not really whatever, but secondary prices for this bottle. So I was able to find one the next day and picked it up that next day. That's how much I really enjoy this Rio and the Amburana and honey finish on this one. And before we get right into the review of these 3 bottles here, if you're enjoying this content, then please like, comment, and subscribe. That helps a lot and helps the channel grow significantly. I got a lot of videos planned and coming up, a lot of blinds, a lot of reviews, a lot of hunting, so stick around for that. All right, well, let's crack these bottles open, give them a pour, and see how they taste. And for this video, I'm still using my mini Glencairns here. We're now on my normal size one last weekend. Bottle pop on the Rio. Decent pop, nothing really exciting there. Tokaji bottle pop. Much better than the Rio. American Light Whiskey bottle pop. Very good, the best of the bunch so far. All right, we got our 3 Penelopes poured up here. On our left here, we got the Rio. In the middle, the Tokaji. On the right, the American Light Whiskey. Let's compare the color on these guys. The Rio compared to the Tokaji is definitely a little bit darker. The Rio looks a little bit more like apple juice, really. So yeah, Tokaji wins on the color there. Now let's compare the Rio to the American Light Whiskey. And these are about the same. The American Light Whiskey is a little lighter than the Penelope, actually, just a little one shade lighter, which is a little bit surprising. I thought the American Light Whiskey would be significantly lighter than the Rio. And since I've already tried the Rio a bunch before, let's go ahead and start with that one. Rio on the nose. Yeah, that nose is definitely Cinnamon Toast Crunch, vanilla French toast, kind of like eggnog too, like a vanilla eggnog around the holidays that you can get. Kind of like a vanilla bourbon cream or some sort of vanilla whipped cream. You're getting a lot of vanilla on this nose, a lot of cinnamon as well. And that nose is just delicious, wow. That is basically a straight dessert. Not just straight sweetness you're getting from this, some sort of creamy, rich vanilla French toast, buttery, creamy type of thing. All right, and let's see how it's on the palate. Yep, that's delicious. Wow. Everything you're getting there on the nose, you're also getting on the palate. A lot of vanilla, a lot of cinnamon, a pretty creamy mouthfeel, and a pretty good long finish as well. You are getting kind of that chewiness with this one, I think just because of the flavor of it. It's very savory. Your mouth is watering immediately right when this hits your palate. It's really delicious, really. This is a very unique whiskey here. And the Amburana finish here is not overdone at all. I think also because that honey barrel does kind of tone down the Amburana a little bit and gives it another depth of flavor. I quite enjoy this one. I think this one's still definitely whiskey. It tastes whiskey. You do get a little bit of heat there on the end. For me, I'm excited to have Amburana finishes in the bourbon category. Yeah, this is good. This is definitely a dessert finisher whiskey though. I wouldn't have this to start the night. I wouldn't have this with a big, hefty, savory meal. Definitely after you eat your meal or, you know, when you're relaxing by the fire or on the couch, this is that type of bourbon to get. Or even really a special occasion whiskey when you're trying to celebrate something big. This is kind of those big, bold flavors and very sweet flavors. So yeah, I like that one a lot. Let's go on to the Tokaji now. The nose on this one's a lot more subtle. It smells basically just like bourbon. You're not getting any very pungent aromas coming from this one. You do subtly smell some sort of wine finish in this one, definitely for sure. I don't know what Tokaji wine barrels smell like, but yeah, it kind of smells like sherry or other wine finishes I also had. It's very light and very subtle. Honestly, it smells a little bit like a chemical, maybe Sharpie or something like that, but it's definitely not strong. It's definitely not off-putting. All right, let's see how it tastes. That one is surprising me. That one tastes like a rye. It doesn't smell like a rye at all. It doesn't have any of those traditional flavors or notes, but it tastes subtly like a rye. It tastes like a toasted rye to me, where you get that toasted flavor in the beginning, but then at the mid palate all the way through the end, it's just straight rye, straight mint, straight herbs, a little bit of dill to it there as well. And you're not getting that at all on the nose, really just on the palate. It's good. If you're going for that type of flavor, more like a toasted rye flavor, this is the one for you. At the end of the palate there, I am kind of getting a hint of some sort of wine finish, just kind of smooth, very finishing at the tail end. Goes down like that and then curls up at the very tail, kind of like other wine finishes I've had before. I enjoy this one actually. It's definitely not a beginner's bourbon. You have to appreciate the flavors and the complexity that goes with this. This one's a little bit more complex than most other wine finishes. I quite enjoy this one actually. I just had my 4th sip and it's honestly growing a lot more on me. That kind of rye finish at the end is sweetness all the way through. There's a hint of sweetness kind of in the mid palate all the way through the sip of this one, which is actually delicious. Let's move on to the American Light Whiskey now. Quite excited for this one. Let's see how it is on the nose. This one's quite interesting. I'm not really getting ethanol, which I thought I would have been getting. I'm getting kind of like a bready smell in this one. Yeah, I'm getting kind of a bready bourbon smell, a little bit of ethanol that was coming through. And honestly, not that much else on the nose. Kind of smells like a regular bourbon. It's very light in color again, as you can see. Wouldn't expect the smell to be too pungent on this one, but yeah, let's try it on the palate. Wow. Wow. That is something I've never tried before. That is very interesting. I have to give it one more try. I'm not even sure what that tastes like. It's good. I'm probably making facial expressions just because I don't know what it is, but that's good. That's chewy. On the beginning, it's kind of like an almond flavor, not like a peanut butter flavor at all. More like an almond brittle, cashew brittle type of thing. Not peanut buttery, really. Almost like buttered popcorn as well. Almond brittle, butter popcorn, deliciousness. This one's really good. Doesn't drink at 128 proof. Drinks way less than that, maybe 110 proof, 107 proof. I quite enjoy this one a lot. That one's the most interesting one of the bunch, besides, I would say, the Rio. This one is excellent, actually. Yeah, you're kind of getting like a stale almond flavor from this one. Yeah, like you kind of find a tin of almonds back in your mom's pantry and you decide to open it up one night because you were hungry. That's kind of what this one tastes like, kind of like stale, dusty almonds. And maybe it's because it's aged 15 years as well, but this one's quite delicious, actually. It's really good, really good. I'm hoping all American Light Whiskeys taste like this one. I'll probably be hunting another one to compare it to at least. And now let's compare the two a little bit here. On the nose, I gotta say that the Amburana, the Rio, finishes #1 by far. It tastes exactly how the nose smells. This nose is rich, decadent. You know you're getting to something dessert there, and it's absolutely phenomenal and delicious. Secondly, and really it's not that close at all, really, it's the American Light Whiskey nose. You already hinted there, a lot of bourbon, oakiness, sweetness, a lot of sweetness actually with this one, the American Light Whiskey. But the reason why I say it's not close is because the Amburana, the Rio, just blows out of the water in terms of the nose there. Yeah, second is American Light Whiskey, and third on the nose here is a Tokaji Cask Finish. Honestly, I'm not getting a lot of nose on the Tokaji. It smells kind of bland. Doesn't really give a lot of smells there at all. It smells a little bit like bourbon, a little bit like a small wine finish there, like a sherry finish, like a cherry finish, but that's about it. You really have to go hunting there on the nose for the Tokaji Cask Finish. And on the palate, it follows the same. 1 is going to be Rio, 2 is going to be American Light, and 3 is going to be Tokaji. The American Light there is actually very good, and it's a lot closer on the palate to the Rio than the nose was, but yeah, still gotta give it to the Rio just because it's so delicate, so creamy, so fresh, so vanilla, French toast. Yeah, the Rio definitely takes it there. American Light whiskey, it's unique and it's got a lot going for it. And however, you know, it just can't compete with the Rio. And the Tokaji, and one thing we're doing new now is giving a rating for these guys from a scale of 1 to 100. Just so at the end of the year or somewhere in the middle of the year, we can tell, okay, what was our favorite whiskey? Can I compare those? For the Rio here, I think it's super unique. The finish doesn't overpower at all. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm gonna give the Rio here a 90, probably 3. It's one of those ones that once you try it, you have to go out and buy it, especially if like those sweeter whiskeys there. I don't think it ruins it at all. I think it's absolutely fantastic and delicious. And I can honestly drink this every day after my meal or after I try other whiskeys there. For the American Light whiskey, which comes in second place here, I'm gonna give this one probably an 85. I think this one is a fantastic. I'm definitely gonna be hunting other American Light whiskeys. The tasting notes on this are fantastic and absolutely delicious. Highly recommend the American Light whiskey from Penelope. And the third one here, I'm giving to the Tokaji. No surprise on that one. The tasting notes weren't the best, as well as the nose wasn't the best. For this one, I'm gonna give it probably a 55. I think it's above average there a little bit compared to some other whiskeys I've tried, but definitely nothing special to me and something I probably wouldn't be picking up again, really. The Rio and the American Light whiskey are 100% worth it if you can get an MSRP. Rio, I would definitely be paying secondary on that. Would I be paying again 160, 170 on this? I think I would. I probably would pay $170 for a bottle of Penelope Rio if I didn't already have one and I wanted one. And for the American Light whiskey, I would go a little bit above on MSRP there again. I think for the MSRP, you get a bargain as well for this one. I'd probably say for the American Light whiskey, I'd spend up to probably 120. Above that, you're getting to some really nice whiskeys that you can get and probably would just beat out this one. But again, it's American Light whiskey. Haven't had that one before. Extremely unique. Love this one a lot too. And Tokaji, you know, I don't think it's worth $100. I don't think it's worth $90. It's probably worth around $55, $65 around that ball point. It's good whiskey, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's not worth this MSRP. And can't compete to the Rio or the American Light whiskey. So these special releases from Penelope have been an absolute treat. Enjoyed reviewing them and enjoyed tasting them. I hope you guys did too. All right, well, that does it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review as much as I did. I actually have a love-hate relationship with Penelope. Some of their bottles I really enjoy, and some of them I don't really like at all. Like, I really like the Rio, but I don't like the Architect, and the Toasted is just all right. However, you know, after trying the Rio and the American Light whiskey, Penelope is kind of turning on me a little bit here. Might be picking up a few more of their bottles and seeing how those are. And if you enjoy this content, guys, please do not forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you on the next video.